how am I going to pay for college? Beyond myself, beyond mom and dad's pocketbook or some other relative in my family, well, this is when you look towards financial aid. And to me, every high school senior needs to apply for financial aid, and specifically financial aid from these four sources, okay? There's institutional aid, there's private aid, there's federal aid, and finally there's state aid. These are the four sources of aid that every college student, in my opinion, needs to apply for. Not only their senior year of high school, but each subsequent year that they are enrolled in college. Now, before we move on and look at each individual source, let's quickly define what is financial aid. A lot of times I would ask, what is financial aid? And a lot of you guys will raise your hand and you'll say, Jason, that's scholarships. Or isn't there something called grants? And then some of you may even also know about a term known as loans. And these three things are exactly what financial aid to me is. Financial aid consists of scholarships, grants, and loans, right? Scholarships and grants being the free money that if you qualify for, you don't have to pay back. It's based on you, the student, all right? Scholarships specifically are generally based on you and your academics, but it can also be based on the fact that you've excelled in a certain sport at your high school. Perhaps you've been a leader on your high school campus, and maybe there's a college or maybe there's an entity that would like to award your leadership by offering you a scholarship to help offset some of the costs associated with a college education. But again, scholarships are based on you. So, depending on what audience this is being shown to, in other words, whether you're a high school junior, maybe you're a high school senior, or even if you're a high school freshman or sophomore, this is where when people like myself, when we talk to you about this process, we encourage you to do the best you possibly can in and outside the classroom, because what you do both in and outside the classroom may equate to scholarships and money to help pay for college on down the line. So that's the first thing, financial aid, scholarships. Again, free money that's generally based on you, the student. Next are grants. Now, grants are also free money, but this is free money that's based on you and your family's financial situation. And we're going to talk about, again, the FAFSA here in a bit, which is the application that you will complete to determine your financial need, and also that will help determine your eligibility for grants. So again, understand grants, this is free money, you don't have to pay back, but specifically grants are based on your family's financial need, which means for some of you, you will qualify for grant money. Others will not. It's just going to be based on your family situation, their income, the family household size, and those things that are taken into consideration as you complete the free application for federal student aid, all right? So scholarships and grants, all right? Good stuff, right? Free money that you don't have to pay back, which then leads us to the last financial aid term, loans, all right? Loans, this is money you borrow that ultimately you are responsible for paying back, plus what? That's right, interest, all right? And hopefully, again, those of you who have taken personal finance, you've learned that concept. So loans are not free money, but for many of us, loans are inevitable, because of the cost of college education. Unfortunately, none of us professionally that work in this college access world, none of us can guarantee you enough free money, scholarships and grants, to pay for all the costs associated with college education. None of us can guarantee that, folks, because every student situation is different, okay? And so for a lot of students, beyond grants and scholarships and beyond this financial support that mom and dad or other relatives may give you to help offset costs, or that you yourself, perhaps through working, can supply in order to help the cost of a college education. A lot of you might have to take out student loans to cover that gap. So understand, student loans you know, to me is a last resort, meaning I want you to make sure you're applying for all the free aid first, and then as a last resort, if there is a gap that through work, through a job, or that your mom and dad can't actually take care of, you know, that's what student loans are for. Just make sure you borrow wisely and understand this money you're eventually going to have to pay back plus interest. And so just understand those basic concepts. That's what financial aid is. And here are the sources again, the 4 sources that you need to be applying to see what you qualify for in terms of scholarships, grants, and loans. Okay? So we just finished covering what financial aid is, meaning scholarships, grants, and loans. And we also discussed the 4 sources of financial aid that, to me, you as a student, you need to apply for not only your senior year, but each subsequent year that you're enrolled in college. So kind of take one source in a row at a time. We begin with institutional aid. And why? Well, if we go back all the way back to that initial slide where we discussed your senior year checklist, you know, institutional aid to me has to be discussed first because, you know, it's the fall semester in which you need to be applying not only for admissions at several institutions, you also need to be cognizant of these institutional scholarship deadlines and the institutional scholarship application process. Meaning, you know, if you're interested in a Carson Newman, or if you're interested in an ETSU, for example, you know, those schools may have varying scholarship application deadlines, and they may also have varying scholarship application processes, meaning this. At some colleges, when you apply for admissions, you might be applying for institutional aid just by doing that, all right? Where at other colleges, you might have an admissions application that you have to complete, and then an institutional application for scholarships that you must complete. And then perhaps there's another segment of scholarships that the college also you know, offers college students or what have you, and that may even have a separate scholarship application process. So again, fall semester, this is just when you do your research and when you have a college fair either at your school or in the community that you may attend with, you know, with or without your parents. These are some of the questions that you need to ask as you interact with admissions representatives in terms of, you know, when are your deadlines? What is your application process? All right. And again, I have begun with this institutional aid slide knowing that some of our colleges and perhaps some of our, you know, are colleges that you may be interested in, like the UT Knoxvilles of the world, like the MTSUs, like the Tennessee Techs and Cookeville of the world. Some of these schools have fall semester like scholarship deadlines, all right, that you need to understand. And if you want to be considered for certain scholarships at those institutions, you need to make sure that you're meeting those deadlines and satisfying whatever scholarship process they have laid out for you to apply for and stuff. So beyond that, these are just some example of institutional aid that some of these colleges may offer you. Academic is most prevalent. You know, these are scholarships that are going to be based on that best ACT or SAT test score. These are going to be scholarships perhaps based on that grade point average or a combination of the two. And guys, and this is where I say not only to students but parents as well. I use the term pump the brakes. Guys, remember, there are no guarantees specifically when it comes to institutional aid, right? Because understand, you're competing amongst and against high school seniors, not only here in Tennessee, but also out-of-state students, and depending on where you're applying to schools, you know, you're going to be competing against a pool of students just like yourself. And unfortunately, a lot of these colleges only have a certain number of scholarships that they can offer you or offer the students that are coming in. So remember, folks, there are no guarantees. And that's for all students whether you have achieved that 34 ACT with a 4.0 GPA, or the student that has a 3.2 and let's say an 18 on the ACT. There's no guarantee, so just remember that. And I say pump the brakes a little bit, because there sometimes is that misconception that, oh yeah, I'm going to get a scholarship or a big scholarship. No. There's no guarantees until you go through the process and see, specifically with this institutional aid, see what the college actually offers you. All right. So again, academics one. Some campuses do have need-based aid that they are able to offer. Not many, a select few. Vanderbilt comes to mind as a school that does a great deal with offering need-based aid to students. So remember that some colleges are able to even offer need-based aid beyond just the usual academic-based aid. And then there are also performance and attribute scholarships that some of these campuses may offer. Maybe you've excelled in a certain area like athletics or like the arts or music. You may be offered a specific music scholarship because you excelled as a band member at your respective high school or something like that. And the attribute scholarships, specifically at some of the private schools where there may be a religious connection. Perhaps there's a scholarship based on your ties to that certain denomination that's connected with a school or what have you. So these are just some of the types of scholarships that an institution may offer you. And understand, there's going to be a process for you to apply for these awards, and there are going to be certain deadlines that you're going to have to meet. This is another thing that maybe for the first time in your life as a student, you're going to have to, do something to meet a deadline that if you don't, there's going to be consequence. I always say there are some things in life that perhaps you could be a day or two late on, and it may not be the end of the world. But folks, when it comes to applying for college scholarships, if that deadline is November 1 and you wait till November 2, guess what? I'm sorry, you're just not going to be considered for that scholarship at that institution, or by by the state entity that maybe has a certain program and things like that. So just understand, these are hard deadlines that you need to take seriously as you go through this process. So transition to the next source of financial aid that we will discuss. This is about private aid, and if you remember at the initial slide about the senior checklist, private aid is one of those sources that throughout the senior year you may have opportunities to apply for. Private aid is honestly that catch-all category. Meaning in the fall, private aid consists mostly of national scholarship opportunities, like the Coca-Cola Scholarship. I know there's a Sam Walton Foundation. Sam Walton, famous for Walmart and stuff. There's a Sam Walton Foundation Scholarship. These national type scholarships that may even have a local tie, that a lot of them are deadline driven in the fall semester specifically. Where do you find out about these scholarships? I think your school counselor is the most important person when it comes to private aid and disseminating this information to you. I mean, he or she will have this information or will receive this information from these scholarship opportunities, and they disseminate this information to the students in various ways. So students, this is where I get it. We've all been your age once upon a time in our life. So understand those announcements that perhaps take place during homeroom or a certain block or period during your school day. When you hear that there's a certain scholarship now available in the school counseling or college counseling office at your high school, you need to go by there, to me, take a look at that application to see if you meet the requirements. And if you do, you need to take the time and apply, okay? And again, there may be opportunities throughout the fall semester, but the school counselor, this is where a lot of this information is going to be communicated from. Now, he or she may also drive you to the high school website for this information as well. Or I've also seen where high school counselors, some do a newsletter that they send out on a weekly or monthly basis. So, no matter how this information is communicated, you just need to be on top of things, okay? This is a time that you need to take things like this seriously, because this is potential money that you may qualify for, that will help you pay for your college education. Let me not remind you that college is quite expensive based on the numbers that we saw several slides back, all right? Last thing, or at least in terms of the national scholarships, yes, there are some sites, scholarship search engines that you can go and peruse online to search for scholarships based on you, the student. I think these are great. I think the rule of thumb, however, to remember about these websites is this should be a free process, meaning as you apply for scholarships, you should not be paying anyone any money, right? Because again, scholarships, free money that's based on you, the student, okay? So kind of remember that. So definitely ask your school counselor, or for ideas of some scholarship search engines, that they know are legit and that they encourage students to go to look for scholarship opportunities or what have you. I think that's a good rule of thumb, without me standing and rambling off a list of legit sites and stuff like that. Ask your school counselor and have them maybe to navigate you some good places. You do see two examples up on this slide. COTS for 10, which is a state site that has a scholarship search engine. I will say that's a good site. And also fastweb.com is another search engine that's been around, honestly, since I was going through this process, and it's another good site that you might want to consider checking out, all right? Last thing before we move on with private aid is, we're kind of just talking about national. In the fall, remember, there's also the spring semester portion of private aid as well, and this is where a lot of the local scholarships will become available for you to apply for. And this may be a local business, a local bank, a local grocery store, some other business that may offer a scholarship to graduating seniors in your respective county or in your town or city that you're located in. Could also be scholarships from your local church, your local congregation. So again, in the spring semesters when a lot of the local scholarships become available for you to apply for.